After Frank Reich was fired by the Carolina Panthers, should the Philadelphia Eagles bring him back as an assistant, another offensive mind in the building, or as a consultant? We're talking about that here on Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Thanks for watching the show. Frank Reich fired for the second time in a year. First by the Indianapolis Colts, and then by the Carolina Panthers. That is a rough go for a guy who a lot of people like, but a guy who has ties to this Eagles organization. He was the Eagles offensive coordinator alongside Doug Peterson as they formed two great offensive minds when the Eagles won the Super Bowl back in 2017. He did a great job alongside Dougie P of formulating some of these game plans, especially once Carson Wentz went out with that knee injury. Nick Foles came in. But how about the development that we saw with Carson Wentz from year one to year two under the tutelage of Frank Reich? He played quarterback in the league for a really long time. He's known very well for that incredible comeback with the Buffalo Bills back in the 90s. And as a head coach in this league, I actually think he's been able to have success. And I think anytime that you can bring in as many great football minds as possible, you have to entertain the idea. The skinny on Frank Reich, fired by the Colts after a 3-5-1 start. Then the Panthers fired him after a 1-10 start. So when I say he's been fired twice in a calendar year, it's happened twice in a calendar year. And he was Nick Sirianni's boss with the Colts and a former Eagles assistant, so the ties are certainly there as Sirianni was the Colts offensive coordinator from 2018 to 2020. To be fair, I know that Frank Reich looks bad in this. A lot of people might think that he stinks as a head coach. The Panthers are an awful team. The offensive line stinks. There's been a lot of chatter that Frank Reich wanted C.J. Stroud and not Bryce Young, and that David Tepper, former Wall Street guy, overruled him because he wanted Bryce Young, who I actually liked more than C.J. Stroud, but he just looks too small at the NFL level right now. Doesn't help that the offensive line stinks. They have no skill position players at all, and for Frank Reich, he had to deal with a couple of meddling owners. Jim Irsay with the Indianapolis Colts, who sometimes makes rash and emotional decisions, and David Tepper, who was fired yet another coach as the owner of that bad organization with the Carolina Panthers. Here's what Nick Sirianni had to say when asked about bringing back Frank Reich, and a lot of people thought that if Reich didn't get that Carolina Panthers job, maybe he could have been the offensive coordinator once Shane Steichen left. Maybe if Brian Johnson leaves for a head coaching job, Frank Reich could fulfill those shoes. But Sirianni, about his former boss, you know what? It's obviously very early with everything that's going on, so I haven't thought about that quite yet as far as bringing somebody in the middle of the year, what goes into that. A lot of times it's familiarity with the person. Sirianni has that with Reich, of course, so that's what goes into that quite often. It's the familiarity with the coach, the relationship with the coach. But I'm not there yet. Obviously, we just finished up our evaluation of our game against Buffalo, and we're starting to prepare for the San Francisco 49ers. Reich's coaching record. You also have to factor in some of the context here because context is always important. Frank Reich left the Eagles thinking that he was going to be paired up with Andrew Luck for the next decade. He goes to Indianapolis, and in year one, the Colts were good. They went 10-6 in his debut rookie season as a head coach. But then in 2019, in August before the season, what happened? Andrew Luck, he retired out of nowhere. Yet the Colts are still able to win 7 games with Jacoby Brissett playing quarterback. The Colts then signed Phillip Rivers, who had absolutely no arm strength at that time. Yet Reich and Phillip Rivers went 11-5. Phillip Rivers retires. The Colts swing for another quarterback. Reich is able to link back up with Carson Wentz. And the Colts going into Week 17 had an opportunity to make the playoffs. Carson Wentz shit the bed, but with Wentz, Colts still went 9-8. And then last year, a lot of injuries, bad quarterback play. They had Matt Ryan at quarterback. The Colts went 3-5-1. Jim Irsay canned him, and then he goes to Carolina, one of the least talented teams. They are so talent deficient with the Carolina Panthers, 1-10. I gotta be honest, it was not pretty, it was ugly, but I thought that Reich was kind of done dirty a little bit. So with that, we ask you this, what say you? Should the Eagles hire Reich? in season, after the season? Share your thoughts with us down in the comment section. H for higher or N for no. We're going to hear from some Eagles fans coming up here around the corner, but today's Eagles Now is sponsored by Factor. What a sensational deal that we have for you, where you can get quality food with plenty of options, and the food doesn't take long to prepare. Factor Meals, our sponsor, 50% off using the code EaglesChat50. If you're looking for calorie-conscious options over the holidays that also taste great, try delicious, dietitian-approved calorie-smart meals with around or less than 550 calories per serving. You want an extra boost to support your wellness goals like me as I'm on my run streak? Feel your best during the holidays? You can try Protein Plus meals with Factor as well, which have 30 grams of protein or more per serving. Enjoy extra convenience any time of day with an assortment of 45 plus add-ons to suit various preferences and tastes. Choose from breakfast items like our delicious apple cinnamon pancakes, bacon and cheddar egg bites, and potato, bacon, and egg breakfast skillets. Or for an easy wellness boost, you can try refreshing beverage options like cold-pressed juices, shakes, and smoothies. With Factor, you can be rest assured you're making a sustainable choice. They offset 100% of their delivery emissions and source 100% of their renewable electricity for the production sites and offices. So one more time, it is factormeals.com/EaglesChat50. Get up to 50% off using that link, which is available for you down in the comment section and in the description of this video. Couple of super chats coming in. James J30T, $5 super chat. Ring that Liberty Bell. What happened with the Cowboys and Leonard? So we're recording this on Tuesday. Shaq Leonard left the Cowboys without a visit. He is visiting with the Philadelphia Eagles on Wednesday. We will see what happens the rest of the week. He is expected to make a decision at some point over the weekend. Wants to weigh his options. But the Eagles has a relationship with Nick Sirianni, who is the Colts offensive coordinator from 2018 to 2020 when Shaq Leonard played his best ball. He also works out in the offseason with Devontae Smith. And James, ringing the Liberty Bell for you, my guy. We appreciate you. Flipping the Bird, 85, one of our super chat goats on Eagles Now. Bring back Sue, sign Leonard, and bring back Frank Reich as an offensive consultant. If Brian Johnson gets a head coaching job next year, you can have Reich be the offensive coordinator next year. I kind of like what Flipping the Bird says here. If you bring in Frank Reich right now, he's able to get reacclimated with Sirianni, this organization, the offensive system. And then if Brian Johnson does leave, you're able to just elevate Frank Reich, who's able to have that relationship with Jalen Hurts. I think that Reich would be a very good offensive coordinator. He did say after he got fired, his NFL coaching career might be over. I highly doubt that, though. Once you step away, you understand that you missed that grind, and I think that he's a really good football mind. Our boy, LA! Birds haven't played a complete game yet. Do you think that makes us scary when we put it all together? I think so. Eagles are still averaging 28 points per game despite these slow starts. And look, I know a lot of people have been complaining about how the Eagles have played offensively the last couple of weeks. Can we please factor in the weather here? It was raining hard in Kansas City. It was a downpour against Buffalo. Offensive football is not easy when the conditions are like that. So hopefully the Eagles do find that groove. I will say this, LA, are you somewhat doubtful that it's going to happen where they could put together a 60-minute ball game? Because we've been talking about this all year. We were like, what if the offense and the defense clicks? And then the special teams can click as well. What if the offense can play a full 4 quarters? Hopefully down the stretch, they're able to do that, and it results in a Super Bowl. China, when I told you that we would blow through these games on this gauntlet, you said, I wish I had your confidence. We're 10-1 now, baby. China, China, China. And the C stands for confidence. Look, I've always been confident in this team. I think that when you have a great owner like Jeffrey Lurie, the best executive in the game in Howie Roseman, a great head coach in Nick Sirianni, a quarterback who I believe in Jalen Hurts, you instill confidence in me as an Eagles fan, right? To have confidence in this Eagles team But that is a difficult 5-game gauntlet and still a lot of work to be done. San Francisco 49ers, Dallas Cowboys, Seattle Seahawks still to come. But either way, you go on the road and beat KC. You come back home to beat Buffalo. You beat the San Francisco 49ers. We're already looking at one of the most special seasons in the history of this organization. That could only continue. China, way to call it. You're a legend. Bird Gang Eagles. Eagles had a great week, but a little bit sloppy. But I want to see some new things in Week 13. What do you think? I will say this. Against Kansas City, I like some of the pre-snap motion. I liked, for instance, having 2 backs in the backfield. I like having Olamide Zaccheaus and DeAndre Swift in the backfield. It's a little bit of a different wrinkle. I like seeing Albert Okwuegbunam and Jack Stoll get a little bit involved. Hopefully, A.J. Brown can get back to his dominant self because he's been held in check over the last couple of weeks. I think he's due for a breakout game soon. And against this San Francisco defense, which is giving up and surrendering just 15 points per game, Philadelphia going to have to be on their A game. I also think the Niners' offense is too good, where if they get out to an early lead, they're difficult to come back against because they can be like a snowball going downhill during an avalanche. Thaddeus Brown, will James Bradberry show up because they're going to go at him, I promise. They are. San Francisco is going to target him. Deebo Samuel called him trash after the NFC Championship game. He said, I don't regret making those comments earlier this week. Whether it is Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk, they are going to target James Bradberry. And Bradberry's going to have to hold up in coverage. He made a hell of a play on that interception of Josh Allen. I will give credit where credit is due, where he commuted pre-snap with, I believe, Reed Blankenship. Hey, I'm going to pass the receiver off to you. If he gets past me, you have to cover him. So that was that pre-snap communication. He did that, communicated it behind him with Reed Blankenship. And he did that because he thought that Stephon Diggs was going to have this like in-breaking route and he wanted to jump it. And he was able to jump it. So the instincts are there with Bradberry, but he has to do a little bit of a better job. And this week, going up against some really good weapons. David Marcella, another legend here on the show. Did you see how awesome TJ Edwards played last night? He is greatly missed. He definitely is greatly missed. That was a great player development story for the Eagles. He was a UDFA out of Wisconsin. He made the 53-man roster as an undrafted free agent, as a special teamer, and then developed into one of the highest graded off-ball linebackers in the league last year. Philadelphia simply was not willing to spend $12 million in guaranteed money for him. That's what it comes down to. Kane Angel, is there any offensive coordinators that the Eagles could be interested in? Frank Reich, they're not going to let go of Brian Johnson. Eric Camper, do you think Smitty will have more yards than A.J. Brown after the season is over? Can we actually look at the Eagles through the air there, Chip? Because I don't know that Smitty is going to be able to overtake him because he'd have to do a lot of work, and A.J. Brown would have to continue to be held in check like he has been the last 2 weeks. I mean, A.J. Brown has more than 1,000 yards. Devontae Smith has 738. So I do not believe that Smitty is going to be the Eagles' leading receiver, but can he get to 1,000 yards? And can the Eagles for back-to-back seasons have 2 1,000-yard receivers? I think so. Arav, Chase, who do you think will win MVP for quarterback? I think right now my MVP is Jalen Hurts. He's been the most clutch. He's been the best at coming from behind. He has the most quality wins of all quarterbacks in the NFL. The Eagles have the best record in the NFL. And if he beats the San Francisco 49ers, you pretty much get closer to locking up that number 1 seed for a second consecutive year. Do people realize how hard it is to go 10-1 after losing in the Super Bowl? How many times have we seen Super Bowl hangovers? All the time. Ain't happening this year. And the Eagles as a team are just an embodiment of who Jalen Hurts is as a person. He's a great leader. Make sure you subscribe to us here on Eagles Now. We will be live for an Eagles-Niners watch party on Sunday, so make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Let's continue to grow the channel here.